Hey, what's up, Canada and beyond? It is Friday, July 12th. Do you know what's going on in Clown World? Well, we're going to talk a little bit about it tonight with our regular Friday co host here at Bankers, Bandits, Bullion, and Bucks, the finance whisperer himself, Bryce Wade. Welcome back, Bryce. It's going to be a crazy ride. Things we were just had a minute to touch over some things, and there is a lot of noise going on out there. But one thing I did see pop up here in the chat, and I wanted to pull this up first and foremost and say congratulations watching from the beach in Playa del Carmen. I'm glad that you guys are taking advantage of the timing and the opportunity. So that's the best credit we could ever bring up on this show. So thank you for that. So where are we gonna? I was going to ask you where we're going to start, but we already talked about where we're going to start. This is kind of a new thing where we talked about just before the show. We're going to get into bringing up the habit of a couple of the metrics, I guess, the red flag things, the simple things that people can watch. And we're going to start doing this at the beginning of the show, looking at some of the commodities and week by week. And then we're going to be able to track and discuss the things that are impacting and changing on a couple of these metrics that are just going to kind of help simplify things for folks. Because the reason I got Bryce to do this is I suspect that most people that are out there like me are completely illiterate when it comes to watching stocks and markets and finances and all of that stuff. Most of us don't have the time for it. We don't have the knowledge, the education, understanding. So we're just kind of trying to give people a few pointers that they can grasp onto, and then when they want to get into the finer metrics of things, they can go to the What's Up Canada website at whatsupcanada.org, and you'll see a link there. And there's one in the show notes as well that you can talk to the guys if you have personal questions, portfolios, want to get your money out of the reach of the globalists and the banks. They can help you out. Did I miss anything there, Bryce?
No, that's one thing. We can also help people that have corporations. We can do corporate accounts as well. And this is kind of an untouched area of the market, in that you can protect the balance sheet of your company as well as your personal finance. So kind of the general rule when people invest in precious metals is 10 to 20% of their net worth goes into precious metals as a hedge against everything else, should everything else collapse, right? And when you look historically, which I can show you if you want, people that do that generally do really good when the economy is going down, which we're about to feel in a very, very bad way. I'm not going to dive deep into that today, but next week I really want to dive deep into some of the stuff that's happening in the economy right now and what it's going to mean for all of us. Because I think the collapse of the economy, which has been pushed off by massive amounts of printing, is coming pretty quick. I wouldn't give it longer than maybe the end, just after the election, but no further than next year, and that's stretching it.
I think you're on point there, and I think people appreciate that, knowing what's at stake here this year with 40% of the world's population going through this instability, turmoil, questions, all of this thing being led by the uncertainty of America and some things that are happening there. But there's a lot going on. I wanted to.
Yeah, we got to talk about that today, bro, because on top of it being hilarious, we just have to talk about
it. Starting at the alleged debate, that was not a debate, it was a sacrifice.
It was. Yeah, when you know that the media is like part of the crew, and the crew is going against your boy, like, something's up. And there's a guy that I follow named Dr. Steve Turley, really, really good guy that follows American politics quite.
Yeah,
closely.
I like Steve too.
Yeah, and so he's basically, kind of coined the term that it's a civil war between donors and delegates, which is not, which is, I think, fairly accurate, because the reason that they didn't hold an open convention originally was A, because they had an incumbent, but B, because they didn't want RFK getting in there, because then he's too anti-establishment. I don't agree with all of the things the guy says. He's got some points about COVID and stuff like that, but I wouldn't vote for him personally. That being said, they wanted nobody have the option to vote for that guy. And so just like they got rid of Bernie Sanders back in the day, they're like, bro, you are out of here.
Yeah, when you've got George Epstein Clooney denouncing him, I mean, it doesn't get any more solid to that the base is done with him. I think the only thing that they're doing is Jill and Hunter and Co, being the vipers that they are attempting to extort the cleanest path out of this before they let Joe go, because he is the money pony for that entire criminal endeavor, and that is deep, long, wide, and far. I wanted to pull up this quick comment here from Billy. What do we think of Gold Silver Bull? I
Oh,
like
they're
them
great. Yeah, they're
for
great.
small purchases. They're really great. My father used them. I've used them for smaller stuff. They're absolutely great, and this, I
Yeah,
guess, it's
and we work with them a lot. They're fantastic. They're really good service. They'll deliver to your door. So my kind of recommendation, because our minimum is $5,000. So if you want to
yeah,
purchase something less than $5,000, just go to Silver Goat Bull.
yeah.
It's a really great service. They're good people. They do great work. They're really on the ball with everything. They have great customer service. Highly recommend.
Another comment here from Ali's paper. Well, however, forgive me if I didn't get that enunciation correct, but I wanted to touch on this specifically for a point that's come up here today in the news, or might have been yesterday. But when it comes to, and this is just my personal opinion, and I'm going to throw this out there because I want yours on it too, Bryce. Crypto depends on the technology. And when AT&T releases the fact that every single client and customer that they've ever had has been now had their personal data stolen from them and hacked from them, I just, to me, that news is just another reason to not do crypto at this point. Thoughts on that? In,
Um,
regardless of its implication of bringing in the CBDCs and the digital IDs and all of that, it's absolutely a progression towards that. But that, to me, is the most simplest reason I need to stay away from crypto.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the main ones. So my partner Warren, that I work with at New World, he's much more of a proponent of crypto than I am. I used to dabble in the stuff, like I dealt with it, years ago to no avail and no value. And kind of you kind of already mentioned one of my trepidations about it, which is that it's ultimately, maybe I'll just step back because I don't know if everybody's heard this. So there's basically only four ways to do a transaction: barter, gold and silver, or some physical asset that you trade on a one-to-one basis, fiat currency, and now cryptocurrency and central bank digital currencies, right? And so they're trying to push us into that fourth thing, so you can't transact anything else. Banks are closing. They're like, they don't like gold and silver. You're not going to be able to barter. Well, that would be one of the only things you can actually do, because that's what you actually have on hand. But the kind of the point that I'm making is they're trying to push everybody into that last sphere of digital, so they can track everything and know where everything's going, right? And so the tracking aspect to me is one of the biggest problems. But I'll just make this last point. The biggest problem is that you're reliant on the internet connection and somebody allowing you to get money into and out of that system. And lastly, and this is kind of the nail in the coffin for me, whoever you're transacting with has to have the ability to transact that cryptocurrency with you. And so if you're like, hey, I need your rice or whatever, and the other person's like, well, I don't take crypto, well, you're screwed. You're literally, well, what are you going to do then? Right. So everybody else in the market has to have the same ability to transact with you.
I
What are you going to do with that?
I wanted to refer back to the show I did on Monday where I busted out some screenshots from my own bank account where they were scolding me for having spent 32 cents more this month on my groceries than I did last month, and tracking it that I was projected to spend $69 more at the stores since I've moved on groceries than I was before. And that just made me absolutely triggered. Like, what business is it of theirs tracking and telling me my spending habits, whether they're good, bad, or otherwise? And that is just all part and proponent to creating that acceptance of the digital currency and the cryptocurrency. Now, all of a sudden, you and I, for example, get crypto, we get plugged in. The government lets us, they crash the currency, they crash the markets. All of a sudden, they tell us the only way that we're allowed to do business is through cryptocurrency or the CBDC, central bank digital currency. Then what control do we ever have over turning off that thing that tells me I spent 32 cents too much?
Yeah. Exactly. And one of the other things that's happening in parallel with this, with central bank digital currency, is the carbon credits, right? So they're gonna, I think, migrate everybody from the carbon credit system to central bank digital currencies, because we'll be used to it at that point, when everybody's like, oh, I have to save the environment by destroying my own life and giving all my money to the government because that's what's so important, giving all my money to the government. Like, these people are just so dumb that think that this is going to be a system that A, works, and does, and B, does what it's supposed to do. It's so stupid. Just from a mathematical point, never mind the ideology, never mind the logistics, but just the math. It's so stupid. I can't even stand listening to these people anymore. It's so stupid. So the point that I'm trying to make,
really is.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, make your point.
So the point that I'm trying to make, right, is that every piece of legislation that's gone into our country for the last 10 years almost, because that's how long Trudeau's been here, has at some way, shape, or form tried to give the government more control over our lives and us less control over our own finances and our own lives, right? And so what I tell people a lot when I explain this sort of stuff is that there's very few things that you have left. And somebody mentioned in the chat here, so maybe I'll just kind of touch on this because it kind of segues into it. There's very few things that you have left that give you more control over your own finance and future and protect you from all the stupid craziness that's happening in the world, right? Gold and silver are one of those few things, right? And so somebody asked, if I have investment capital right now, what do I do with it, right? So these are the 5 things that are the most important.
Okay, so before you get to that, then, if you're going to hit the chat, I've been waiting on a whole bunch of chats before that. So
Okay,
let's start at the top. And
Sure.
this one has kind of come up, and some people have answered it in the chat. We're going to touch on that in just a second for
Okay.
sure. But this one here is one that I wanted to address. Don Jr., 100%. The mercenary media, they are hired assassins of the truth and freedom of us, but they are absolutely scrambling at every level, and they are intentionally obfuscating, and they are part of some false flags right now. This whole thing about Russia shooting a children's hospital, false flag operation used to distract us from some other factors like Saudi Arabia, UAE threatening the EU that if they actually seize the Russian assets, they're going to remove all of their investment in the EU, and the American dollar, petrodollar, collapses. These are some things the media is not talking about. They are not talking about the Asian summit that happened this weekend that just has exploded the alternative trade sector, shall we say, in the darker side of the world. So yeah, media is absolutely scrambling. Playa, you're in Playa, small but good, but I bought small bull when I was still in Calgary, but that was 3 years ago. Absolutely. And for me, it boils down to exactly this, Brenda. I just don't trust it. And moving forward, I'm going to have enough to be worried about without having that hanging over my head on all of that too.
And I'll make the point too, like our government, Chrystia Freeland in particular, has already proven that she's gonna more than happy to ban bank accounts. So what if she can just push a button and you can't even do a transaction at all because you've said hate speech or some nonsense?
We're already seeing that. We're already seeing that canceling of institutions. If they don't like what you're saying, thinking, or doing, they'll remove their services from you. So this is kind of multitasking. We've got one question earlier and this one here. You want to touch on that one for just a second?
Yeah, and so this is kind of one of our really important things that we can do for people is that, a lot of people have been working for 20, 30, 40 years or whatever, and they're close to retirement or already in retirement, and they're like, hey, I want to get my stuff out of the banks, but my registered account is kind of my life savings that's going to keep me alive. Well, if that is invested in mutual funds or all sorts of stuff that's in the market, we're at the peak of the market. The elites are selling, the parasites are selling all of their stocks, and the economy is about to crash. Like the stock market is about to crash again. I don't know when or how much, but it's going to be bad and it's going to be soon, right? And so one of the things that you can do is you can put your registered retirements into precious metals, and we work with Questrade to be able to facilitate that. So really good organization. They've been around for a long time. They're well trusted. And yeah, so we can help people with that. And so that's one of the major areas that we help a lot of people with is getting their RSPs or liras into precious metals and out of fiat.
100%. Here's a good one from Don Jr. Mark Carney. 100%. He is the globalist extraordinary. He has been the head of the International Bank of Finance. A whole bunch of globalist positions. Last week, and he was in the UK at the Wimbledon, sitting in the royal booth with the king and country crowd. So this guy. So the news as of late is that. They think that Mark Carney is kind of in a foxhole here. Either he's going to accept an appointment or not, and he's going to be forced to be outed. Does he want Trudeau's job, or will he settle for freelance?
That doofus is not going to walk into Canada as if he's lived here for the last 10 years and just be like, I've got all the solutions to all the problems my stupid policies created. Because like he's been in the background for years. He's been a part of Canadian politics for longer than I've been alive.
He helped construct the liberal industrial complex of treason and finance.
Screw that guy.
Yeah, 100%. This one here, the Zelensky curse, I like to call him, is now this is interesting. Our government is committed. Yeah, I will do. This guy, our government is now committed another $500 million of your money to this expired. His mandate is over. He has outlawed elections. He has jailed all of his opposition and religious leaders. And this is the democracy that we are fighting and funding. Come on, Canada. And to that extreme, this is where I got to admit, Mr. Garnett, definitely not so genius, has really stepped in it, in my opinion. And I've been railing on him and Bill Blair. Yeah. Bill Blair. Now, have you heard about this new bill that Garnett has proposed, E3888?
No,
to fund mining, to expand mining in Canada in order to create a direct pipeline from our mines to shells for Ukraine. From mining to delivery, this will expand the war effort for Ukraine if they make a bill to fund more mining. This is from the Conservative Party of Canada. Like, it doesn't get any more ludicrous and insane than that. Not that we don't need more mines and more jobs, but is that how we do it? By creating a direct pipeline of artillery for Ukraine? This is the Canada, the military industrial complex, Rotten Tomatoes version that they're trying to build here in Canada. And 100% Ali's dad, however much you hate the MSM now, it's not enough. They are the existential threat to humanity, in my opinion.
One of them, for sure.
They are the most complicit in the destruction of the planet in the last 10 years, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But
they're the worst. Absolute worst, man.
Wow, lots of comments.
Sorry. Let me go back to because the comment was above all this. So just let me kind of finish my point about the investment. So somebody was asking in the chat, if I have some investment money, what do I do? Right. So here's a simple framework to figuring out how much you should put to what. Very simple, right? The only things that are going to matter should the society and economy and World War III all go in a bad direction, which I think it will personally, is skills, assets, resources, protection, and community. Though that is what civilization is. Now, a transaction between those 5 things is how the economy works, right? And so the purpose of a currency, gold or otherwise, is to get resources or pay for services or get assets that do something for you, right? And so the goal that you should have is to make sure that you, your family, your community, whoever that is A, protected, and B, able to function and survive. Not necessarily in that order, but all of them together, right? So if you are looking at the world right now and saying, hey, what am I going to do to keep myself alive? Gold and silver isn't the top of that list. It's second. So all of the things that gold and silver would get you in a bad situation or even a good situation The purpose of that is to do one of two things: get resources or something that's going to keep you alive, or as an investment to hold value so you can do something in the future. It's either an investment and a protection for your wealth if you're a wealthy individual, or it's to get resources that you want now and be able to transact directly with somebody. So if you don't have like 90 days worth of food, and you should have a lot more than that at this point, because those problems are coming down the pipeline too. If you don't have protection for yourself and your family, if you don't have a place to go, if you don't have like the technology, like, you know, a stove that's not connected to the power grid, you know, you have to think of, if I can't go to the store and get the things that I need to survive and my family to survive, how am I going to ensure that I can do that? Gold isn't even on that list if you can't do that, right? So make sure that you and your family are good first, and then if you have excess, then put some of that into gold and silver, right? If you have something stuck in a registered account or something, sure, put that into gold and silver. That's still useful, right? But the number one thing and the number one purpose of any sort of currency, regardless of what type it is to get resources, skills, or assets or protection for your community, right? So do that first. So if you don't have that, don't even think about gold and silver.
Well, this is where I think most of the people that have been watching us have been, you know, kind of slowly developing their alternative communities, their apocalypse families, tribes, those kinds of things for quite a while. And fortifying that is exactly what you're talking about. And these are ways that you're going to be able to do it without stress. It's going to be it's the, you know, by appearances, it looks like that's the way the world is going to be going anywhere, where that, whether you've got it today or tomorrow, you're still going to be able to use it. But if all you've got is, Mr. Kingbacks, you're going to be in trouble at some point. And I wanted to add in here on this one here, the Ukrainian people have been unfortunately suffering most of their history, but particularly the last 10 years, due to exactly the military industrial complex type of thing that I was absolutely disgusted by hearing Mr. Garnett propose just this week. So trying to capitalize on the false flag, oh, they did this, which was an absolute lie, and then trying to promote his bill. Wow.
Yeah. I like Garnett. He's actually done some really good work holding the lunatics on the left accountable in our domestic politics. But yeah, he said a bunch of dumb shit about international politics that I pretty much detest, and I've said as much on Twitter about it.
He also signed the Paris Agreement.
Did he? Yeah, fantastic. This is what I mean. Well, like politics is so dirty, man.
It's exactly like the rest of these guys. Pierre signed it. He signed it. They know exactly what to do to appeal to our rage bait us, to our base common sense, without being able to think and look deeper. And the whole thing is a swamp that needs cleaning out. We need to replace all of them with bloody independence. If you ask me, it's the only way that system is potentially even salvageable. But I highly doubt that. Hey, Megs, good to see you in the house here tonight. Thanks so much. I think this comment here by Brenda, thanks for tuning in tonight. You are a patient follower through all of the hurdles and the censorship and abuse that this platform gets. You've been very loyal. I think next week's program we're going to be able to delve into a lot more. I think that's some of what Bryce is going to be speaking to, because there's a lot going on in the property real estate market right now, and I'm afraid none of it is good news.
No, let me put it like this. Of all of the things that I know, and that's a lot of things that I know about what's happening in the world right now, there is about an order of magnitude or more bad news than good news. So like the trajectory that we've been on for years, think about like all of the problems that you can think of in the world right now. And it's a long, long list, right? What are the trajectory of all of those things? Are they getting worse? Are they getting better? Are those problems going up and getting worse, or going down and getting better? Almost all of them, probably to each one of those issues, are getting worse, right? Yeah. And you can't run a civilization in the way that we are that has all of these problems getting worse. At some point, institutions break, and I want to make this point because I think it's interesting. When you think of, and I was talking to a friend about this yesterday, that's why I'm bringing it up. So when you think of the collapse of a society or a country or an empire or whatever, right? At some point, when that empire collapses or that country or whatever, at some point it reaches everybody. That like, oh, I got to pay my taxes today. And the tax guy isn't coming by today. That's kind of weird. And then eventually somebody comes by and says, yeah, those guys are done. Don't worry about it. We're free. And it's anarchy, right? So throughout history, there's been thousands of times where whatever the country or whoever was in charge is now not in charge anymore, right? And so right after that point, everybody gets to decide, hey, you, me, and everybody in our little community here, we're on a team now, and we got to defend ourselves and keep ourselves alive, because whatever bullshit was, coming down the road from whoever was in charge ain't coming no more, right? And we're going to get, I think, to that point at some point, because if we live in a society, right, where we all agree that we're being lied to, stolen from, destroyed, attacked, declared war upon, trying to be stolen from, all these different problems, right? At some point, we're going to say, is it up to me to say no, or is anybody else going to do anything about this? And some point, somebody's going to say, that's it. I'm done. Screw you. Get out, right? And once that happens, it's going to be whatever you have on hand is what you got.
Well, in the part that people don't maybe don't get a chance to see or understand is there are recent examples of exactly this happening. We can look at
Sri Lanka collapsed a couple years ago.
Sri Lanka, Venezuela,
they're sort of collapsing now.
Yeah, even Cuba, we can look at that as an example of what happens after a collapse. Almost the entire Middle East, and all of these have been manufactured destabilizations that ultimately led to collapse. And when that happens, that is exactly what they're trying to do here. All of the things that they've learned, South Africa, exactly, yeah. All of the things that they've learned in doing those exercises in these faraway lands, they have kind of now turned upon us. And with the intent of, this build back better, but they can't build until it's destroyed. They got to bring in the demolition crew. That's where we're at right now, is we have the globalist demolition crew. It's not ineptitude. This is manufactured suffering, because suffering, as we learned the other night, Bryce, I've been really smashing the home runs in the shows this week, but listening to the old lessons where people learned, that the ultimate control is manifested through the suffering of others. So this is why Trudeau wants every single one of us to suffer, because that is the ultimate control. And when we're down to 15 or 20 grams of food left per day, Trudeau will be happy. And so will any of his other globalist cookie cutter carbon copy repeats, whether it's Mark Carney,
brain cell loser moron communist dirtbags. Yeah.
Yeah, all of them. But it's yeah, absolutely, completely premeditated. I've been screaming about it and putting the dots, connecting the dots, but I've been getting much braver the last 6 weeks, because I see us running out of runway when I look at the implementation time from Bill C-11 to real world, Bill C-18 to real world. Well, with B-63 coming, dude, I have got 1 year at the outside to either help end this madness or make sure that I have spoken every last important thing that I have to say. But they don't stop giving us things to talk about and warn people about and connect the dots on. But here's a thing. When that collapse happens, there's a lot of people are bandying about the word sovereignty and sovereign in Canada for decades. Yep. And I challenge every single one of them to really understand the definition and the real jurisdiction, the facts and the information, because that a lot of people think Canada is sovereign. We are not. The first time I met with a federal MP, he exactly admitted it to me and shrugged his head and says, yeah, so what? We rule through implied consent. So the secret to freedom, and this is the point that I'm getting at here, is I've really been asking people, because I've been doing it myself, to do some soul searching and question ourselves. Are we fighting? Why are we fighting? For freedom, yes, but what does that mean? Are we fighting for the life we had 10 years ago? Because I'm sorry, folks, that wasn't
Garbage.
freedom. That wasn't freedom. That was a slightly more comfortable form of slavery. So going back to that is still not freedom. So we need to be freedom builders. And in order to be freedom builders, we control what happens. We decide what happens, and we
Yep.
embrace the true jurisdiction and the work involved in that. And that, well, unfortunately, has been so muddied, even by aspiring politicians and people that seek fame, fortune, leadership, and influence. There are very few that are genuine and honest about the process of that, but it is absolutely starting in Canada, and people need to get that figured out by watching what Iceland did. I keep coming back to that. We got to do what Iceland did. They started, they didn't finish, but Canadians just need to finish what we start and do what Iceland started and didn't finish. And then we can actually have real, true freedom and a real, true financial superiority on the face of this planet. Plus, our country would be debt free.
Yeah. And to your point, and I've thought about this a long time ago, and fully agree, is that you can't just be an operative of opposite. You can't just be an operative of opposition. You have to be a proponent of something better and something greater, right? Because when you look at history, right, all civilizations advanced from what came before to some degree, right? Because they're like, there's some stuff that we knew about in the past didn't work out. We got to go further and do better than they did, right? So right now, like the crowning achievement of human rights is essentially the Declaration of Independence in the U.S. Protected the most rights for the most people in all of human history by a country mile. It's not even close. Nothing else comes even close, right?
Yep.
That failed. Like, for the fucking absolute absurdity that we're living now, it didn't work, right? Because it's been undermined and destroyed from within, right?
Right. I think there's an opportunity to still save it, and I think that
I agree.
it's. But you're right that it's exposed some things, and it's exposed people to understanding what democracy really means, which makes it poison when it comes out of every of our pseudo elected officials when they tell us that they're giving money to Ukraine because protect democracy, when democracy is nothing more than the rule of the mob. We don't want rule of the mob. We want social order. And when Americans get that figured out and that sorted out and get their mainstream media poison, but here's the good news: Canadians only have 10% of the work to do to get that done, whereas America's got 100% of the work to do to get that done. But they got to start on that, and that understanding of democracy, what it means, and what freedom really means. We need to start with that and start having a whole new discussion, because we're, the freedom fighters, the fighters have done an amazing job in the last short couple of years in carving, cutting, and the truth and the real reality out of the nonsense. But now it's going to take construction crews and builders to build what's rightfully ours. And this was kind of why I wanted to rail on that for just a second. How many decades must we look back to before we can see where we were truly free?
Yeah, there wasn't any. And this is kind of just to finish my point. Yeah, is that I think that we collectively, like we as in humanity, and this is kind of maybe an underlying philosophy of mine, is that we, humanity, have been dealt a shit hand by the shit systems that have been built for us that we've been born into, right? And so we have to devise and understand that there is something greater that we can do. Like, is this bullshit the best that we can do in all of human history? Obviously not. In another 200 years, if we weren't run by morons and we had better systems that were set up, we wouldn't be living this garbage lifestyle of slavery and stupidity that we are now. And when our future descendants look back on us, they were like, you idiots had all of the opportunity in the world and you squandered it because you're too lazy and stupid to do anything about it. But, I think there are enough people in the world that recognize that. And I was having this discussion yesterday too. I think most people know and just understand on a deep level something's wrong. Somebody's lying to me. I don't know how or what's wrong, but something's wrong. Like, because something's not working. You know what I mean? And as long as you have that as a starting point, you'd be like, well, if something's not working and somebody's not doing something about it, well, eventually it comes down to, what am I going to do about it? And then you have to have the discussion with yourself or people around you. What are we going to do about it, and where do we want to go? And that part of the conversation has really never happened in a public setting to the degree that everybody is part of that discussion, right? everybody has a family. Everybody has people that they care about. Everybody has people that's getting hurt.
Oop.
Everybody has people that is not working.
Did we lose you, Bryce?
Oh, was it me? Can you hear me?
Or did I do something? No. Oh, it looks like you're back.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay. So I'll just finish this point really quick. So the thing that we all have to recognize and realize is that we need to figure out what are we going to do and where are we going to go. Like the first step is obviously getting rid of all the retards, right? We all agree on that. Retards, no good. So, but the next upshot to that is if we're going to replace them, we can't just replace them with another idiot. We have to upgrade the system. What does that look like? What is the system that we want to live in, and what are the agreements that we're gonna live by? Right? Communism, bad. Unfettered capitalism controlled by the oligarchs and the cabal of bankers, no good. Okay, well, if those two systems aren't good enough, well, we have to make something different, right?
Exactly. And to that point, I'm dropping a link in the chat here because it's not in the show notes, but understanding where we're at and the reality of it and why our arguments don't work, why we're not being heard, why the rest of the world looks at us funny when we bring up these things, and they look at us like we've got three heads because they know an awful lot of what we don't know. And so we had the opportunity. The monarchy severed its control, its chains on us in 1931 per se, and it was up to us. And thanks to World War II and the Depression and all of the things that came after that, we never really got around to it, and life was so good all the way through the 70s and 80s. Like I saw another comment there. So they, we got trapped, and then they saw us as easy pickings by manipulating the narrative, the politics, because they they knew the things that the average Canadians did not know, and that's basically what we need to understand in order to pull an Iceland and just finish what our ancestors fought for in this country to establish a free land, and had finally gotten to the point where it had been given to that opportunity. But then build back better starts again, build some more, create some more wars when you're losing control. And this was a significant point that I wanted to make related to an article that I shared on my Substack, or I restacked, whatever they call that. The problem comes with food and energy. Anytime a population has access to an abundance of food and an abundance of energy, they will seek to build a much better nation where everybody prospers. And that the handlers cannot stand or stomach, because then we become a threat to their domination of the planet. So that's the entire point of the climate scam, the eco-terrorism, the buzzard bugs, the culling of the food, the destroying and poisoning of the farms, the chemtrails, all of these things is because we are doing too good as a species, and they can't control us anymore. So it's about build our own better. And
Second
they're going to
Renaissance.
Second Renaissance, because if we allow the hotheads in the room to control us through the manipulation of their rage and rage porn, and I've been speaking to this a long time, those of us that still have the ability to communicate must take the responsibility of understanding what we're delivering to people. Are we just talking about rage porn, fear porn, end of days, doom and gloom? No, but it's also, reality is not a warm cup of cocoa and a fuzzy blanket. There is not much good news in the news that people can be helpful for. If they want that, I put that on Monday nights. Any good news that is out there, we get that on Monday nights. But the rest of the week is about getting work done, guys. And at the end of the day, it's humanity that's going to save us from the demons.
Humanity versus the oligarchy.
Absolutely. Had some great discussions that Jim Ferguson was on Wednesday from the UK. Nigel Farage's advisor there, and they want us to, like Jim said, they want us to believe that they are all powerful, almighty, all controlling. But no, they are afraid, they are weak, they are fearful, and We can,
narcissistic, parasitic. Yeah, there's lots of words we could use for them. But the important thing is that they have the resources, skills, and assets being organized against us. And I said
right.
this in one of the previous episodes: is that evil's been organized for forever, and the good people of the world aren't organized at all. And that is really the crux of all civilization, is how you are organized. Those 5 things that I said: skills, assets, resources, protection, and community. Well, it's how those 5 things are organized in a group or in for that community that dictates how well that civilization does. And because we are so disparate, disconnected, and disorganized, well, even though we have orders of magnitude more numbers, and we all agree that this is bullshit and somebody's responsible for it, well, we're not organized, so nothing happens, right? And so the way that they've controlled us for so long is we look at each other like, this guy's an idiot and that guy's an idiot and she's an idiot and she's an idiot and whoever, instead of looking up and saying those guys are idiots, we got to replace those idiots.
I wanted to touch on this comment here about isolating, self-isolation.
Yep.
A lot of people are talking about that, getting remote, getting isolated. Unfortunately, guys, all that does is maybe buy you a little time. Without community, you won't withstand. You won't withstand whatever resources, organizations, and skills that they have, which are far more, arbitrary, shall we say, about what they do. You won't stand a chance. So I encourage people to think about isolationism as a nation, but not as an individual.
Totally. You have to be a part of community. Like, you don't survive alone. We are not built, designed, or able to survive alone. You can do it for a generation, and that's it. If you're alone, you die, and you die alone, right? The only way that civilization survives is as a group. That's what civilization is a group of people, right? And I'll make this point too, is that regardless of where you are on the planet, you cannot escape this. There is no place on this planet that you can run to, even in the deepest stretches of the Amazon rainforest. They have drones. They will find you. You could print 1 billion drones, 8 billion drones, and you could kill everybody just by doing that, right? That technology already exists, right? So regardless of where you are in your life and whatever you're doing, whatever you have access to, you have to understand this, okay? Regardless of whether you're on the front line or the back line, the line is coming to you eventually. And so you either do something about it now and we all do it together, or we're even more divided than we already are and they pick us off one by one. But at some point, somebody is coming to kick down your door and say, listen, asshole, you better do what you're told or else.
If people can't see, even those that don't agree with most of the things that we think, they have to be noticing and feeling it. I would think there's no way that people can convince me that we are outnumbered in not being aligned with this dystopia that they have. And I did an hour special last night on Orwell. And when you look back at some of the things that he said, and I brought up some stuff that have been published 3 years ago, looking at how many steps we're already at, and then here now this week, how many more steps we're actually at to living the life of Orwell. But the last and most important message was that of the establishment.
Don't believe your own eyes.
Don't believe your lying eyes, right?
It was the last and most important order that was given.
And that's kind of where we're really at. And if we don't and this is the hard part, we need to have righteous anger. We need to be able to articulate it. We need to be able to express it. What we have to refrain from is engaging on it. That serves them. And we cannot become hostile. We cannot become angry. We must remain rational and seek to find. And this is the thing that I want, as far as our messages might get over the next coming weeks, can we find 3 or 4 things that we can agree on that we need to stop and fix, and make that what we hold across this country to the feet of people's, to the fire under people's feet. Right? And none of these guys that actually have the ability to go into that charade theater and say the words that seem to matter to the rest of the players and in the Meat Muppets in the Death Star there in Ottawa. They don't. We can force them to address the things, they're only going to do that this year. This year, they're not going to listen next year after there's an election. They don't have to again, right? So this is the year we have to collectively figure out some of the things and become incessantly not not provocative about or being agitators about, but being hard line. No, you don't get a seat in this office until you admit and begin to, repent, lie to me, say you didn't know, whatever the case might be. I don't care. But unless you vocalize and join the team to save Canada and save humanity and get us out of the Paris Accord, the Migration Compact, whatever those things might be, we need to figure that out really, really quick.
Yeah. And collaboration and organization, bro, with wherever you live, wherever you are. You got to find people in your community that you can collaborate with. And I know that's difficult, especially with so many people being lefty lunatics. But at the end of the day, it's wherever you live, right? And I've said this before too, and I'll say it again. Probably going to say it a bunch more times in the future. But there's a mathematical formula to your survival. How many calories do you get, and where do they come from? That is the baseline for everybody, right? And if you're in a city, you're at a calorie deficit because your city doesn't produce food. And so if you don't have some on hand, or you can't go to somewhere where they produce them, you are going to lose if we ever don't get food. And so what it comes down to is, are you able to organize with the people that are in your community group or otherwise, so that you and your people in that community, however large it is, can survive what's coming? And this is a question that every single person on this planet is going to have to answer, because the way that our civilization is built and the way that our logistics systems work and the way that the economy is built is not conducive to it not being connected anymore. Like, globalization connected everybody to everybody, right? And if that system breaks, a lot of people on this planet rely on people that they don't live with in their community. And so if those trucks stop coming, if those ships stop coming, if those trains stop coming, you lose. So be mindful about the resources, assets, and skills that you have available in your community, and build the ones that you don't have, and make sure that you have the ability to survive, because that's a lot more important than gold and silver.
Back to the barter system, that is inherently hardwired into us, and that's kind of what people will do. And the people that are manifesting the destabilization, they want to make sure that we don't have the ability to not say no. They want to make sure we don't have the ability to say, no, sorry, we don't need your carrot. We don't need to sign on that because we've got enough food. We don't need Big Brother. Every day that we can say we don't need Big Brother, when that happens, that they die a little bit more on the vine on that. And I put up a post on Facebook the other day, guys. I am the nicest guy you'll ever want to meet, but forgive and forget. Sorry, I don't have Alzheimer's, and I am not Jesus. So I will carry on, and I will continue to call out both and all sides.
Well, that sounds like hate speech, Wayne. Oh, be careful
right?
with that.
Right, I know, right? No, I don't like corruption on any side, and we're going to be doing a little bit more looking at some of the Freedom Industrial Complex over the next little while too. Sorry, Stacy, not in Calgary, but I am putting this up here so that what I'm going to encourage you to do, Stacy, is in the actual comments under the show, leave a comment in there, and there are folks from Calgary that will connect with you. Be happy to connect with you. They're always looking for other like-minded folks as well. So destruction capitalism. Like I said, we've got the wrecking crew in here, the demolition crew. That's and they lied to us, and then once they're in, it's handing over the baton. And right now we've gotten to the point where the only thing that they're squabbling over is basically who gets the cut for doing the stealing from us, right? 100% definitely support your local farmers. Localism is the 100% safe and effective cure for globalism. Communication systems, absolutely. These are the things that we need to. when we gather in platforms like this and communities and chats like this, what happens when they take me down? What happens when they take Shadow down? What happens when if we're not prepared for that, you're going to lose touch with a lot of people that you're going to wish that you had not. So I encourage people to find alternative systems. There is some stuff out there to deal with that. I haven't got the answers on that, but definitely start thinking about that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
What
go
else we
fish where
got?
the fish are. And somebody made a point to support your local farmers. Get in touch with your farmers. Be like, hey, I'll come and buy food directly from you. Cut everybody out of the supply chain. And they're not necessarily allowed to do that, but if they're freedom minded, they will.
I went to the store the other day. No eggs.
Oh yeah, and so they're gonna try and attack our poultry next, I think, because of the bird flu. But I went to buy a whole bunch of beans because I've been stocking up on beans and stuff. And Vancouver, all of the suppliers of pinto beans was out. So like I've been saying for literally years at this point that there's a famine coming and you got to get prepared. And so if this doesn't tell you that our food systems and the agriculture and the farmers and all these people are under attack, I know it will. If you don't have like 90 days worth of food minimum, you got problems. You have to get food under your control because you are at the whims of the government if you do not.
I want to just touch on this one here. No, you cannot, Carly, eat money, gold, or silver.
Exactly
But
what I've been saying.
there's a lot of people out there that will be happy to accept some gold and silver for a little bit of food, but they won't take the money. So those people that are sitting on stacks of paper money or in the banks and realize that you can buy something with $20 today, but tomorrow to buy that same thing it's going to cost you 40, and the day after 80, and the day after that 160. That's the way it's going to go. We've seen
inflation,
in the last year the hyperinflation is absolutely starting. When I see somebody that orders the same online order to be delivered to their house when there's a 300% increase in not quite 2 years, that is hyperinflation, the beginning of it, and they're normalizing it, completely normalizing it. So yeah, lots of stuff. Before we run out of here, we forgot to do what we intended to do right from the beginning to start off with. We were going to look at some of these commodities so we can kind of see the pattern of where they were last week. And we started with this. And
so I do 5 days because that's basically it's Monday to Friday essentially. And so you can see that last week we were sitting just under 400, dropped down a little bit for a little bit, and then it spiked back up to 2,400 was kind of the next plateau that we've really been hitting and not going much above that. So we topped out at about 2,450 and have come down to about 2,350, 2,400, somewhere in there. And so this kind of level, I'll be actually interested to see what happens next week. This might be another breakout that we got coming down the pipeline. But as I was mentioning before, all of the super high net wealth individuals, they're all selling all of their assets in the market and buying actual hard assets. And so what the wealthy do is a canary in the coal mine, if you will, for what's coming down the pipeline. And this happened just before 2008 last time, right? So the exact same thing that they did in 2007 is happening now, today. So I can't stress this enough, is if you do have excess money and you want to make a good investment that'll be secure, gold and silver is a good long-term investment, assuming the world survives. If it doesn't, you still have the gold and silver at the very least, right? And there's other investments that you can make, but somebody else was mentioning you can't eat that stuff. Yeah, I agree. That's why I said, go get food and water, bro. Like, go and get all the stuff that's going to keep you alive first. I'm telling you, if you don't have a lot of money, don't get gold and silver. Maybe get a little bit of silver just as a bartering tool for transactions, but you want to get the actual skills, assets, and resources and ability to protect it before anything else. Okay? So that's that. Now, silver is kind of a little bit more interesting. So I got to put this over here. So last week, at the end of last week, we basically spiked up to just under 32 bucks, which is about 7% up for the week. And so now we've come back down. That was over here. Yeah, so we were at 31 for the year for the week, and we got almost back up to 32, and now we're back down to 31. And so what's happening is that every time that we get to about 32, there's for some reason there's a bunch of pressure that's selling. So I imagine that there's probably people that are taking profits and dropping the price down a little bit. I don't know if this is manipulation yet, but it has been suppressed just in general. So I'll go to a longer, but you can see the trend line, right? When I went to VRIC at the beginning of the year, I asked when this was at $23, what's the prediction for the end of the year, basically, and they said it was going to be 30. We're already at 30, about halfway through the year. So what's it going to be by the end of the year now? I'm guessing 40 or 50, but probably. I don't know. That's kind of my prediction, what I think is coming. But the point that I'm trying to make here is the precious metals price is a barometer of the economy, because typically there's an inverse relationship to the economy, and we're at the literal height of all time of the market by an order of magnitude. It's way higher than it's ever has been, probably ever will be. And what's coming down the other side of that rise, I don't have it pulled up, but basically there's another depression coming as far as I'm concerned. So take that for what it's worth.
I just because of the sheer volume of information that I'm getting into my inbox the last 4 or 5 days, I'll probably do something next week covering what some of these guys are talking about. But I wanted to, before we get, go ahead.
Yeah, if you want to get into some of the actual technicals of what's happening, that's what I was going to kind of do and be like, hey, so this is a line of things that's happening. I'm
not going to get into the technicals. I'm going to be getting into what the news and what the talking heads are going to be talking about. So I just it'll kind of set up, you're going to be talking more about the actual stuff. That's beyond my knowledge, but
no. Well, you know how I talk. I can simplify it and just say this is happening. This is what it means. It's kind of how I relate everything. But I'm saying that there's like real estate as an example, the Fed, the interest rates. There's a whole bunch of these different lines of things happening that you can point to and say this is what this means historically, and this is probably what it means coming down the pipeline. And so,
with the level of uncertainty and potential of conflict, this is going to make things even more volatile and go up. But just before, I wanted to make sure that I got this one from Carly. Yes, seen it, done it with my own eyes. New World Precious Metals, absolutely. You can order it, and 3 days later you'll have it.
Yeah, we deliver. And so Carly also asked about copper. So let me give everybody here a little bit of a bigger view of what's happening in the economy right now. Okay, so number one, we are at war. Okay, that you take that to the bank. That is what's happening. You are at war. Okay, what is a war? A war is a competition of people and resources and your ability to use logistics to deploy them. Okay, so those three things are happening right now. And for a war, you need material. Copper and a whole bunch of other materials like nickel, tin, aluminum, iron. Copper is a major one. Silver. There's a couple of other ones that are like major strategic resources, like oils, or is a strategic resource. All of those strategic resources are in massive demand right now because the U.S. military is ramping up production. There's a massive reindustrialization of Mexico happening right now. And so if you want to get into, and so when I talk about this stuff, you have to determine how long you think this system is going to survive, and if you think it's going to survive at all. If you want to like increase your net worth through the markets and stuff, investing in commodities right now and the ability for those commodities to be serviced and deployed in some way, shape, or form, there's lots of good opportunities. And specifically in copper, there's a decrease in the amount of production for copper because copper mines are vastly expensive and take forever to get rolling and into production. And we only have a limited amount that's producing copper right now, and the supply is going down, the demand is going up. So that should tell you where the price of copper is going to go.
And one of the other, just a subtle point here to kind of close it off tonight, is what country, can anybody name me, what country has the most resources and the lowest population and the most polite to fight back on the planet as ripe for the conquest? Is kind of a rhetorical question because there really is the only one answer. It's absolutely us. And yes, Don Jr., the prices are absolutely manipulated. But here's the thing about it: once they're manipulated, once those markets are gone and the fiat currency is collapsed, none of that will be worth a darn thing. But you'll still have what you bought.
Yeah, and they can't suppress it forever. And you're seeing right now that the price of gold is going up because they can't suppress it. There's been literally trillions of dollars that have been put into precious metals by central banks and lots of other people. And so you and me and kind of the plebs of the world are always the last people to get in. And that's why I scream from the rooftops, if you have excess capital that you're not using to get actual resources and physical and protect yourself and your family, go get some gold and silver, because it's one of the best investments you can make right now. Silver specifically, but just like somebody else was saying, Carly, is that copper and like the hard assets, oil is a hard asset. There's so much opportunity right now in times of crisis. There's always opportunity if you know what's coming next. And what's coming next is bad times. Exactly. Those are the two things that you can guarantee. I guarantee you, if you invest in those things, even though the government's trying to destroy them, they're intrinsically valuable. That's the difference, right? Regardless of the amount of money, the fiat money that's put on the value of those resources, they
fall into that
make life
class.
Yeah, they can literally.
Regardless
if we
of what
lose
currency
oil,
is exchanged,
it's
regardless of what the exchange is, the material,
Yeah.
the product is still moving. We're kind of getting a little bit over here, but I just wanted to throw this out here because it just dawned on me at the last second. I see a direct correlation with the amount of crypto spam I am getting with, again, watch, rinse, repeat. It happens in patterns. Every time something big is going on, I start to get spammed and inundated with pitches for crypto and digital, all of that stuff. Am I right to me being an uneducated hillbilly? That's a red flag thing.
Yeah, I look at all cryptocurrency, other than Bitcoin, and even that I don't really like it, as a red herring, because you got to understand that every dollar that goes into crypto doesn't go into a physical asset that you can actually do something with, right? It's literally,
I put it all in the same basket. Bitcoin, crypto, to me, it's all the same thing. It's all a digital form of currency, and to each their own. But I am not putting my life or banking the little bit that I've got in anything to do with that. But that's, again, just me. But to me, when I see this happening, I see it happening in cycles every time. There's a big crash coming. We see an overwhelming wave of propaganda to that end in my book. So it's good to know that I'm not just crazy taking that as a bit of a red flag.
Yeah, and I think that if you work with this framework, that is, what can I do to protect myself and my physical community wherever I am, whatever that is infinitely better than investing your money on the other side of the planet. Like, if you could have invested in crypto 10 years ago and rode that wave a bunch of times, be a multi-bajillionaire right now. But that still means that you had to get out of that and get actual physical assets that matter in society. And that's where everybody is right now.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks so much once again, Bryce. I'm going to pop you to do it a little bit differently here.
Actually, somebody asked for a contact. Could I just put up my contact info for a sec?
Should be. Yeah, you betcha. I can throw that into the chat. It's also in the in the show description. You can get a hold of New World Precious Metals if you go through this link.
If you just want to reach out to me, you can just put something through the website newworldpm.com or info.newworldpm.com. You click on the link below this video, and then you can just request me specifically, and I'll reach out to you.
Yeah, you betcha. So I just dropped. The reason I'm doing it this way, guys, is because this is a link that lets them know that you've come from our community.
Yeah, exactly. So if you want to reach out, please use Wayne's affiliate link, so he can get paid if you buy anything. I want to support Wayne. Awesome stuff. And I will make sure that I hit the right intro there on the way out, and give people a little bit of more of a look at New World Precious Metals. So stay frosty, my friend. We will see you next Friday, sir. Have a great weekend, everybody. Stay safe and stay free.
All right. So it's a drink from the fire hose every single week. I'm just going to take an extra 30 seconds of your guys' time here, because we've been making a big shift. We're finally being able to, through back channels, connect with the people on Facebook that are being left behind since they have decided to mandate me with a government issued credentials, or I'm not allowed to stream. And they got the giant Trudeau finger from me on that. So we're trying to shift our community to elsewhere, i.e. here on Rumble and also on Substack. Guys, there's make sure you get plugged in there. It's free for everybody. You can get all of the links, all of the resources. Sometimes I might miss a few things that Bryce and I are talking about, but in general, 5 days a week, along with the 5 shows a week, all of the receipts, all of the documents, everything is in the Substack the following day. You can choose to donate there. It's about $8 a month, so that's literally like 50 cents a show. If you want to help us out, that is most greatly appreciated. And if you want to kind of buy this freedom for others, help us consider keeping this free by throwing a donation at donate@whatsupcanada.org, or you can buy us a coffee. Oh, that's the wrong one. Anyhow, yeah, but that's the maintenance underway. Rumble and Substack, guys. That's the priority. Make sure you get plugged in over there. And until next week, stay mighty, stay strong, stay frosty, my fellow friends, family, and patriots and hostages. We'll see you on Monday.
In times of global instability, soaring inflation, and massive debt, gold and silver have proven to be unshakable pillars of wealth. New World Precious Metals, based in Calgary, Canada, is a leading international brokerage. We offer an easy, secure, and cost-effective platform for investing in gold and silver, including our international wholesale program and registered retirement savings accounts. Protect your money outside traditional banking with our physical precious metals, privately vaulted outside the banking system, at secure, insured exchanges worldwide. Gold and silver have been trusted assets for generations, with current projections indicating high returns. And with unprecedented demand from governments, banks, and investors, there are now shortages. Precious metals thrive during inflation, geopolitical instability, and currency devaluation. Sound familiar? Now is the time to invest in gold and silver, whether in your international investment account or by transferring registered retirement savings accounts. Experience the security of physical precious metals, combining the safety of physical assets with the flexibility of being like your own bank, offering instant liquidity and a financed line of credit. With precious metals on the rise, don't miss this generational opportunity to protect your wealth. At New World Precious Metals, we ensure your wealth meets its potential. Contact us today and our personal brokers will guide you every step of the way.